Hello. Today we are going to talk about making your cakes not stick and the options that you have. See, I have my cake pan here, and we're just going to talk about the batter sticking, because it does. As you see, I forgot that one. I have a few different types of items in front of me, and if you can tell, other than the flour, each one is a type of oil. Even butter is considered an oil when it comes to baking. It's a fat, and fat, when it's melted, turns to oil, so that's why it's considered an oil. So we have our all vegetable shortening, not any kind of lard. Please don't use lard in your cakes. You can use it in cornbread, but not cake. You don't want that meat scent or flavor in your cake. So all vegetable shortening, butter, coconut oil. This is a spray, like a non-stick spray. I like Baker's Joy. It smells funny, but they all do. It's the propellant that's in them. It's best for baking. There's a lot of options out there for sprays, but some of them are actually intended for skillets. Like Pam is more intended for frying and casseroles. So it's I guess the Baker's Joy actually has flour in it, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And then I have regular oil. I use sunflower oil. You may have vegetable oil, canola oil, something like that. I use sunflower oil. So, other than the Baker's Joy and the oil, generally you don't coat a pan in just oil, but you could. It's just not common. I guess because it tends to pool in the middle rather than stick to the sides, and so that's most likely why. If you're using a coconut oil or vegetable oil or a butter, you're going to get it to stick to the sides of your pan, and that's important because just getting it to not stick to the bottom isn't good enough. You got to get it to not stick to the sides too. So that's, very, very likely why few people, if any, use oil when the solid objects are better. Now, no matter which one you use, you always want to dust the top with flour. So after you grease your pan with your oil or fat, you want to dust it with flour. And what that does is it stops the oil from baking into the cake. It puts a little thin barrier between the cake batter and the non-stick oil. If you just put the oil on and then pour the batter in, what's going to happen is one of two things. Number one, especially if you're using vegetable oil, you're going to fry the outside of your cake. But number two, the cake will actually absorb that oil a lot more than it will when you put the flour down on it and give it that barrier. So always be sure you give a barrier to your fats. Now, the Baker's Joy has flour in it. Voila. Also has the lovely soy lecithin that your mother just loves so much. So, this may not be one that you would use for home bakes, but it works really great for, if you're making something for somebody else and they are not as sensitive to soy as your parents are. Like I said, the Pam and stuff is just really just propelled vegetable oil. So it doesn't have that sticking to it that the Baker's Joy does. And you can see, I'll even show you real quick. See that? You can see the flour that's in it. It's like a white, fluffy, bubbly it's there. You can tell that it's different than just just an oil, a spray oil like Pam. That would just be yellow like vegetable oil. What I want to teach you today, you're going to need a bowl of some sort, preferably one. I'm just going to use a regular mixing bowl first. I have a different bowl, but I don't know where it's at. I have to find it after I use my mixing bowl. Anyway, we're going to make goop, okay? And for goop, you need your vegetable oil, flour, and solid vegetable oil, your Crisco, this one. So these three items are what makes up goop. And this, I usually keep it in the fridge, but I've heard that's not necessary, and really with what's in it, it shouldn't be, but you know, better safe than sorry. So, I already got it in a spoon. With goop, get you a bowl. Okay, it's 3 parts. 1 part flour. Sorry, I'm chewing gum. I probably shouldn't be chewing gum while I'm doing this. My phone while I pour. I need 2 hands all of a sudden. I didn't need 2 hands before. You're silly, unprepared, Aunt Christina. Okay. 1 part liquid oil. And yeah. Then, lastly, 1 part solid oil. Now again, if the solid vegetable oil is 99.9% of the time made out of soybeans, so if you could possibly swap it for coconut oil, but I have never tried it. So give it a go if you want to try it. Just use a smaller amount. Do like a tablespoon of each and test it in one, like on 1 cake pan, and see if it keeps it from sticking. The problem with coconut oil is that it breaks down so quickly. If you think about the melting point of butter versus coconut oil versus vegetable oil, coconut oil has the lowest melting point. So it melts the soonest, then butter, then vegetable oil, solid vegetable oil. So basically, if I put all 3 items in the microwave at the same time together, the coconut oil melts first. It's the weakest binding of any of the oils, of the solids. So that's why it doesn't work as well, because it just breaks apart too easy. It doesn't have enough body. It doesn't have enough solidity. So there's our goop. Looks kind of nasty right now. We're going to take a whisk, or you can put it on your mixer if you want. My mixer is currently in use, and I'm not going to uncover the other one right now, because this was kind of a spur of the moment video for you. So anyway, get this all mixed up. It's going to take a few minutes and 2 hands. Voila. Still a little lumpy, and that is perfectly okay. That's just going to happen. That's the flour. It's all kind of lumped up in there. But you should see that it's nice and thick. You do have to, you're going to have to bang your whisk out a few times because it'll get caught up in there. But that's it. This is goop, and this works the bestest of any of the options that I have shown you. Any. I have never had a cake stick with a goop, ever. Never. And it doesn't take a whole lot. Well, this is a 12-inch pan, so it's going to take a little bit more for me. But as you get it in here and spread it out, you'll see that the flour clumps do rub out. See? And so I will just, once I get my 2 hands again, I will just go over and get that nice and smooth. And I will not put any more flour on top of this because it's in the goop. I don't need to put it on top. So this is just a really great, be sure you get it in the corners real good and up on the wall. And I'm telling you, best cake release ever. I do want to note that if you ever do a cake, like I said, this is a 12-inch pan. If you ever do a cake that's bigger than 8 inches, or even a 9 by 13 casserole dish, it wouldn't hurt to use a flour nail. If you have a Wilton tip box, which I have somewhere, but I think I've got it put up because I transferred all my tips to a different box. It should have come with one. Excuse me. When you use a flour nail for large cakes, the point and purpose is to help draw heat to the middle of the pan. Sometimes if you've baked a 9 by 13 or a bundt cake, bundt cakes have the tube in the middle. So that's where the metal is for those. But any deep or really wide cake, a flour nail you put in the middle, and what that does is it helps transfer heat to the middle of the cake while it's baking too. So instead of just all the heat on the outside working its way in, there's heat in the middle working its way out as well. And that makes for a much more even bake. It is important though that you goop your nail or flour your nail or cover your nail as well. And then, like I said, it just goes right in the middle, just like this. And then you would pour your batter around it and bake it with that right in the middle. Anything above an 8-inch, you do a 10-inch, 12-inch, 14-inch, and it doesn't hurt on a 9 by 13. If you've ever had those rolled up crusty edges with that funny bump in the middle, that's because it had to take all the heat inward from the outside and therefore heated unevenly. This just helps give a more even heating so that your cake stays more level and doesn't get that crispy crust on the outside with the goo still in the middle, because that can lead to burning on the edges, and then you got hard burnt edge, and that's no good. That's waste of cake. How dare. So anyway, just wanted to go over that. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye-bye. Alright, so my cake is done. I used the goop, and there's my nail. And you can see it's actually pulled away from the edge. That shows a done cake, specifically in chocolate. Vanilla doesn't always pull away as much, but chocolate definitely does. So when you go to flip it, it'll push that nail up the top side. And voila. Yeah, fully removed cake as Budamas. And you can still see some of the flour and goop left in there where it created that barrier. So not all of that, like I said, absorbs into the cake, which is why it's nice.